We're live. I feel like I've used the same saying every time when we check we're going live.
I also like how we both go onto our phones.
I know. I'm waiting.
I think it is actually a little bit competitive. Who gets the announcement first?
It's usually you.
We're live.
We're live. Great stuff. Yeah, I'm sure we always know that we're live when people say yes, we're here.
Yeah, like Laura Collins. When Laura Collins says hi, I'm here, and I always say yes, Laura. How's it going? Was Laura the one? Did she win the buff last time for being first before?
I'm not sure. Laura's always been quick off. It's been quick on the draw.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll be live. We are live. Great stuff.
Gav Forager.
Gav is here. We got
Never far away.
Shona. He's never far away at all. Who else we got on then? If you have joined us, do say
Laura
hello.
Collins did. That's twice that Laura's been first.
Well, she's excited. I mean, luckily, she knows that we're not always on time. So she hangs on for a bit.
Simon Howard.
Simon.
I've seen his name before.
We got Vicky on the comments today, or on the phones, as Dave used to say. Marky V, of course. Mark, I hope you're well. Dropped Mark an email yesterday, mate. Great to thanks for sending some new Ever trackers our way. We got Andrew Scott from Newcastle. Stuart. We got David. Great stuff. Nice to see you all today. Hope we've had an awesome week. Yeah, it's been a busy one, isn't it? We've had a lot of summits recently on Killy, which has been amazing.
Yeah. Killy's been very busy.
We had it was good because we have almost an Ever tracker veteran, really. Lucy Vaguely, she did base camp with us, gone back a few years back, and she did Killy literally yesterday. It's always nice to see familiar faces and
Lucy
Ever
Vaguely.
trackers.
Is she the one that went during Holly Festival?
That's right. Yeah,
March
19, I think she went.
We arrived just after her.
That's right.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah. Jimbo Blues, 10 days till his EBC track.
Oh man, I bet you're excited. Danny, great to see you. I know you jumped on another trip yesterday. Great to see you going to South America, mate. You're gonna love it. But yeah, guys, today we kind of we always like to pick different stuff, and we know chatting about equipment, chatting about fitness, all the good stuff is really important. But we wanted to also talk about the which we do like to challenge.
What are we talking about?
The mental side of it. Maybe that's Dave. I mean, at least it's not backwards this time.
It's very hard to do this. I'd be a terrible weatherman. Like that's top speed right there.
Yeah, it's quite hard.
Do me a favor, really quickly, and there's a high pressure zone coming in on G. Point to G.
Yeah,
that's T.
Oh. All right, maybe there's a tornado coming.
Yeah, but on a small picture of a map, you just pointed to Minnesota.
I think I'll leave that to Michael Fish.
Yeah.
Whoever the news.
Do you know we've discussed weathermen before?
It's because
this same thing from the same conversation.
Same thing. Dave.
It's tough to do that, and actually, that kind of leads us on to what we're talking about.
I say, Gav, is it possible for non-Geordies to say Newcastle without trying a Geordie accent?
That's because I said Newcastle-like, and I'll be honest, Gav, as a man with a semi-Welsh accent, I feel your pain. I feel your pain, even though it was me that probably was the offender back then. It sounds like something I did.
Definitely. But yeah, so back to the tough moments. It's an important one. We get asked this certainly not as often as what boots do you need? What do I need to do? I need a COVID pass to go into this country? Visas, that sort of stuff.
We don't mention the C word.
All right, fine, I'll leave it. But certainly, it's just as important. When you're on a trek and you do find it difficult. And this could be on any adventure. It could be going out on a training adventure in the UK. Like Ben Nevis. It could be going to somewhere like Machu Picchu. It could be Everest Base Camp, and you're 4 or 5 days in. You're not quite feeling yourself because of the altitude. And it can be tough. And these moments can define your trip sometimes. And we thought we'd chat about that a bit. And Dave, I know when you came in, you looked at these notes, which I've got here.
It's not notes. That's an essay.
It's not an essay. I wish I could show you, but no, we'd like to make a few notes on what we're going to talk about. And it's very important stuff. We've both had difficult moments on trips, haven't we? And
you can talk about Tubcal again.
No, not necessarily Tubcal. Like, you did trips when you were ill, for instance.
Yeah.
2019 when you had shingles.
Yeah, 2019 was.
You haven't mentioned that before.
No, I haven't mentioned it. For those, obviously, because I've hardly mentioned it, lots of people would have forgotten that I had shingles and went to EBC, which was a silly idea. Then there was Tubcal, where I actually, failed to get to the summit. Failed's negative terminology. I would say that I didn't reach the summit on that attempt. But that's Morocco giving me a second chance to come back and experience how awesome it was.
But a successful trip is getting down safely.
Yeah.
What does Ed Vistas say?
The top is optional, getting down is mandatory.
Exactly.
Yeah, and obviously then there was, I didn't get to the summit of Kilimanjaro without one day, which I felt pretty rubbish. And on many of these trips as well, when you actually do feel pretty bad, you can just want to quit. And it's his natural human emotion to do that. But it's about, okay, how do we, we're all different people, we all get motivated differently. But what are the common threads that we can kind of deploy to kind of get us up the hill and keep us going? And for some people that may be digging deep, stiff upper lip. For other people it might be having a little cry in the tent. For other people it might be kind of I don't know, banter and joking about it, which is probably my method.
Well, humor can be used in many ways. And certainly on a trek, you'll find, especially if you've got a decent sized team, the banter definitely flows around Evertrek groups, which is fine because if you are finding tough moments, and don't never poke the badger too much. You can kind of gauge if someone's up for a joke or not. But generally, a bit of humor goes a long way on a trek, and definitely I think I just recall back when we were on Kili, and the banter that was going around the Mets tent and
Uno can get pretty.
You guys are pretty competitive.
Pretty gosh darn competitive with Uno sometimes. Apparently, Brooke went for a walk one day. Brooke was on the trail with us, and she said she could hear our tent like going back from miles away.
So she goes on acclimatization hike, and here's you guys playing Uno.
Yeah.
Wow.
Hey,
amazing.
Let me tell you,
mate, it's great.
Uno is just as important as acclimatization is.
But again, it entertains you mentally, right?
Yeah, you've got to distract yourself because sometimes it's altitude. You can have a bad stomach. You can feel a bit ill. Every time you stand up, you might get a little bit dizzy. Getting in and out of your tent, you get in your tent, you get washed, you get dressed, you get back out, you land in the mess tent, you sit there and you go, oh, I forgot my phone. And it's like,
it's all right, it's not bad.
You got so it's a healthy banter, I think, is key.
Definitely. Good to see some latecomers. We got George just arrived. Who else we arrived here? I think we got Haley as well. Great stuff. And just going back to the tough moments then, I mean, one of the biggest things I always used to kind of think to, I'll go back to, it's in your back pocket really, is your why. And I know this is, not everyone's kind of into this stuff, but I read a really good book actually by a guy called Simon Sinek. Is a business book, and it's called Start With Your Why, or Start With Why, I think it's called. But there's a lot you can take from that in terms of, on anything you do, in terms of why you go on these things. I know that, a lot of us like the challenge, and that's why we go. A lot of Evertrekkers actually go because they're doing it for something, like maybe fundraising, maybe they've lost someone and, they might be taking their ashes to a special place, or in memory of them, they're doing it. So sometimes when you hit that wall or when you hit that tough time, having your why is, and remembering why you're there and what you've chosen to spend your money on, what you've chosen to work hard towards, that can change anything. I think that can change you in any state. If you're feeling down and you think, what, I'm not feeling my best today, feeling a bit rough, maybe feeling a bit sick, but you actually think back to, actually, I'm doing it for that reason. Come on, Anne, let's do it.
Yeah.
You give yourself almost a kick up the backside because you remember what you're doing it for. And I think, you know what I mean? Have you had moments like that, Dave? Like, you're
100%.
and you're like,
100%.
Come on now.
I think I can think of 2 EBC trips where I got to EBC completely successful, but the first time I did it, my why was a childhood dream.
Okay.
Always wanted to see Everest. Always wanted to stand at Everest Base Camp, and it was more than just signing up for a challenge. Like some people on a whim might sign up to a marathon, and when they're running it, they might think like, "Did I really want to do this?"
Yeah.
But Everest was like a deep-seated, like in there from when I was like a kid.
Yeah.
So anytime I had a tough day or a tough day on the hill, and I was really struggling, and I just kept thinking like, of all those explorers that went before me, and how lucky I am to be treading in their footsteps, and how I only thought maybe a year or two earlier that doing this would have been impossible.
Yeah.
So I kept that thought in my mind, but actually I'm doing the impossible right now. There was a time when fat, unfit Dave working in an office in Milton Keynes I couldn't have been further from the Himalaya. And it was never, ever going to happen for me.
Yeah.
Those days are gone. And hang on a minute, here I am.
Yeah.
catching glimpses of Everest through the trees in the trail. It was
amazing,
amazing.
isn't it?
Second time I actually went in 2017. I actually did a little bit of it was to raise funds for a friend of mine's brother.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah.
Who has some disabilities, and it was to like build him a wet room and stuff because his parents are getting on a bit, and it was getting difficult to kind of get him upstairs and in and out of the bathtub, and so just standard everyday stuff. I really like the guy. Michael is one of the sweetest, brilliant people I've ever met. Sometimes I can't even talk about him because it gets me a bit like. But doing that trek for him was great, and it was weird. I knew it meant something to me. The trip itself, because I'd already done it and I knew I could get there.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, I'm doing this for Michael. But you know, when I arrived at EBC and I had done it for a cause, it felt different.
Yeah,
it felt different.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. When you get there and that why is so big that it means something to you, and you know, like I quite understood what Danny said there. Event on summit night, you know, felt awful, but what helped you was knowing you have been part of a fantastic group. No way they're getting the summit without me. I love that, mate. I bet the bottle of Coke helped as well. But no, it is, isn't it? When we were on Killy, there was one of our good friends, James. You know, there was no way he was not going, even though he was ill. He was like, no, I'm going. And fair dues to him, he got to the summit. It was a bit rough, but he made it. And I think that was the similar sort of thing. You know, part of the group wanted to do that, and you know, it was all about getting the summit. And mate, yeah, I totally get that. Because it's an interesting thing, isn't it, when you start thinking about those things and your why. I think if you know anyone that's due to go there this autumn, I know there's a lot of Evertrekkers going to Nepal, you know, going to Everest Base Camp, you know, going to Annapurna, climbing some peaks like Island Peak. We've got a lot on Island Peak this autumn, you know, or if you go into other parts of the world, you know, we've got a lot still to go on Killy. You know, I hope that maybe use that if you are, you know, suffering a little bit, remember your why. Maybe it can spark you into action.
Yeah.
And then the next one, Dave, I know for me is always been, if you're taking on a big goal, I think it can sometimes weigh you down a little bit. It can almost kind of hinder you in a way, especially on a trip, because you kind of makes you feel a bit anxious. I know I've certainly spoken to a few people about this, and they, you know, we get a bit, especially before the trip, they're a bit like, they've got that anxiety around the trip because they think, oh my God, it's going to be really difficult.
Yeah.
But actually, I find that something that's helped a lot of people is just breaking it into sections. So whenever you've got this big, ugly beast of a trip that's in front of you and it sounds like it's hard, you know, you break that down day by day and then break those days down as well. It becomes more achievable, it becomes more reachable.
100%.
You know what I mean?
I'd agree. You know, on Kilimanjaro, I think I really felt that.
Yeah.
One thing that is really good, some people do this naturally. Some people have to really kind of work at it. Weirdly, in my day-to-day life, I can't do this. I always worry about the big things. I always stress about it. But on the mountains, I think I find it easier.
Yeah.
When I was on Killy, I never really thought about the summit until it was time to go to the summit.
Yeah.
Before that, it was just about each day. Like I'd wake up every day, have a cup of tea, and you chat to the guide. Oh, what's today? What's the big challenges of today?
Yeah.
Oh, today we're going to go up the elephant's back. Wow, that sounds great. And then it was like, right, today is just about the elephant's back.
Yeah.
Get at the top of the elephant's back, and every one of those little achievements is like a little summit.
Yeah, exactly. It makes you feel good.
Yeah. And then, you know, Shira too. He's like, yeah, it's a bit of a flat day today. And I was like, brilliant. Just got to get there without tripping over, you know. And it was like, but every day is great, and I also look forward to the little things along those sections as well, and that's about breaking it up. Like one thing I loved about Kilimanjaro, was the camp life at the end of the day. So you'd reach the end of the day, your tent would be there, you'd pack it up, I'd put my sliders on, I'd sit outside, and everyone just sits around like that, just enjoying the view with a cup of tea. Everyone's milling about, doing their thing and chatting and having a good time. And I don't know why, but those moments really made it was like an inner calm. And I used to look forward to that at the end of every day. And then you get the summit night and all bets are off. You know, there's no inner calm on summit night. There's like, but
brilliant. It's some nice comments actually. Lovely is. My workmates think I'm a badass for just giving it a go, so I've already won. Exactly, mate. Exactly.
100%.
You know, it's always nice, isn't it, when some people give you a pat on the back for doing things. Yeah, mate. If that helps, definitely. Thanks, Dave.
You go to South America in a couple of days, mate.
Definitely. It's going to be good. Yeah, there's some good ones there. Mark Johnson, anxiety only comes from the unknown. The more details you can share, the better. Definitely, Mark. That's why we hope. I mean, we don't want to come across as preachy here. I mean, there's lots of things that work for people. There's some things that don't, but we hope that this information can make it a little bit better for you, and we're sharing that. We always like to say that we kind of maybe you can glean a golden nugget from something that we are talking about, and even if it helps you like 1%, it's helped. So we hope that us sharing this information is coming across the right way.
Yeah.
I know we've shared some of this advice before, but we thought, if it's going to be the tough moments, what could we share that can help you potentially?
Well, knowledge dispels fear, and it's one of those that's hard to kind of grasp before you're on the trip. So one of the reasons when we've talked about the mindset of the trekker and things like that before, and we've noticed like, we didn't have as many questions as we do on boots and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But what we know is that if you guys are just listening to this, there'll be some people who are watching it who really, I didn't know that. Oh, that's made me feel so much better.
Yeah.
And then also there are times when, particularly in a couple of the lists that Andy's written down in his book, there'll be things that we tell you now that don't strictly apply. They don't apply to pre-trip. They don't apply to training. They apply to those moments when all the chips are in. And you've got to dig deep and find a bit. And sometimes, like, the story I always share, right, is because you've kind of trained me onto this a little bit, to be honest. I never used to think about mindset at all. I just used to kind of plow into things head first, and I either made it or I didn't. And if I did, I was elated. And if I didn't, I was devastated. And Andy's kind of taught me a lot over the years about the power of positivity and things like that. And the one story that I always give, I don't know if you know about this, but I hurt my knee a while back.
What?
I did.
Which one?
It was my left knee.
Left knee.
Yeah.
Oh, right,
it was a terrible accident. I'll tell you all about it another time. But anyway, and when I got to the hospital, the first call that I made was to him.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's getting me again. What's wrong with me today? And like,
you're emotional today.
I know. I don't know what it is. But when I spoke to Andy, you've got this way of telling, of putting things in perspective. And although my world had ended, I knew based on the injury that I wasn't trekking for a year.
Yeah.
I wasn't riding my bike for a year, and the next period of my life was going to be about recovery.
Yeah.
And Andy's got a way of breaking that down and getting you to positively attack each challenge.
Yeah.
And it was weird. And I tell this to the Bald Yeti John and everyone that says it's like, I don't know, it was like, here you are, Dave, here's the armor you're going to need for a couple of days. And then you got me a book about how to mentally prepare for recovering after an injury and things like that. And I honestly, and also the power of positivity from all the messages I had from you guys. I remember I had so many messages from all of you guys. Vicky Dunn, who was on the training weekend, was one of the first to message me, and I always remember it.
Yeah, that's right.
And we hadn't spoken at all. She'd been on the tune-in a couple of times, but didn't really know each other.
Yeah.
And then she took the time out to send me a message. And that's when I knew, do you know what? Positivity isn't just hoity-toity. It doesn't just exist in the clouds. It's a real force to be reckoned with. And it helped me get through that recovery. It's helped me get up mountains. And I know that if we tell you this and you're struggling when you're on a peak, you'll hopefully remember it and be able to kind of think, turn around, look at the view, look back at the hill, and get at the top.
Exactly. Oh, mate. Jan I love that you can show your emotions, Dave.
Rare.
It's rare, mate. I'm glad this is recorded.
Do you know, maybe it's because I haven't got a hat on or I've done my hair or anything today.
Is that what it is? This is you, Dave.
This is raw. This is raw uncut.
And I like that you've got the land of the
Yeti t-shirt. Honestly, another true thing about sharing your emotions, I haven't been able to wear this for about a year.
Because you've done exactly after your...
Because I got tremendously fat. Yeah, hurt my knee and decided the best way to recover was to triple my calorie intake.
But mate, you've been working really hard. I know you work. You're going back to Tupcal in December, right? Going back to Tupcal in December. I'm ticking that bad boy off, man. Yeah, I know.
It's been. I want to go back and get Tupcal. Yeah.
Well, you'll do it this time, 100%. Just keep drinking enough water.
Yeah, I've learned a few things. I mean, this is the thing, always learning. Never once think that you've learned it. I've climbed bigger mountains than Tupcal, and I've trekked for longer than it takes to get to Tupcal. I've been in hotter and colder temperatures, but you never, ever take anything for granted.
No, mate, it happens, doesn't it? And
also, I did have a sinus infection. You
did. You were ill before the trip.
And I had heat exhaustion.
Yeah, mate, it was bad. Oh, no, Dave's
oh my
like...
God. No. We need the fan.
That fan is...
That's another.
Dave is being cooled here by a Dyson fan just over here, but is it all right now?
That's all right. And yeah, that would have been a goal that I was definitely not prepared to do.
Dry your eyes.
Andy's office is known for being unbelievably hot.
I know. I need to take this off in a minute. But, we'll see.
He's mad, this guy.
Well, if it's hot or cold, I like extremes. But no, Dave, yeah, it's nice hearing those stuff. And, you know, going back to what you said around, yeah, how you approach things positively. Yeah, it's difficult to just say, just be positive. That's not what we kind of mean. It's more about, you know, how can you almost reframe or, you know, put things into perspective that can affect it in a positive way. It can even just be snapping yourself out of a negative situation that you're in. I think, like what Dave talks about his injury there, he was feeling down, and all I was trying to do was snap him out of that, him focusing on that, the downside of where he is. Well, let's think about what you can aim for, which leads us on to our next one, which is talking about goals and targets. Because when you have got something to aim for, like Dave, now you're working towards TUPCAL. I know Jen's going with you. You know, it focuses everything you do. I think from when you get up in the morning to how you approach your training to how you approach your packing, everything, because you've got this thing to aim for.
Yeah.
Again, I know we go back to the why, and you've got maybe something different that you're aiming, but actually writing it down, telling someone, this is what I'm going to do, this is when I'm going to do it. It makes you accountable. And I think as individuals, sometimes, you know, we all do this, don't we? I certainly used to do this when I was a lot younger, is talk about doing something. But when you tell someone, or when you write it down, it almost makes, well, I better do that now. Otherwise, they're going to say, well, have you done it yet? You know, or, you know, I remember when I was 18, 19, I was talking about going backpacking for years. I was saving up for it. And yeah, people are like, oh yeah, have you been yet? And I'm like, no, I haven't gone yet. I'm still working towards it. And then it wasn't until I made that decision of, right, I'm going to go away. And I went away for a year.
Not to prison.
No. I went backpacking. I went Southeast Asia, Australia, Leah's neck of the woods. And, you know, so it shifted my mind then. Actually, you've got to follow through what you say. But when you do tell people, and when you've got a goal or a target, it helps.
100%.
It helps a lot.
100%. Holds you accountable.
Yeah. 100%.
And it's one of those things where I think, yeah, having a goal that you kind of, I always go through the same period, right? I decide I'm going to do something, and then I have maybe a few days a week where it's just mine. It's my goal. And then I think to myself, I could easily change my mind.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I come in and I'll tell someone about it, or I'll post about it, or I'll like talk to my friends and say, come with me. And then the next thing you know, I can't just duck out of it.
Yeah.
I need a reason. You know, I can't just say, oh, I don't feel like it, or no, it's too scary. And a lot of these things as well is about, I think, desensitizing yourself as well. These goals can seem really big and scary until you put into practice those things, like one, holding yourself accountable, talking to people about it. Knowledge dispels fear. The more you learn, the less scary it is.
Exactly.
Yeah, 100%.
And this is kind of a bit different, because I mean, some of the stuff we're talking about here is maybe the things you do before, but if we're talking about goals and targets when you're on a trip and you hit a tough moment, there's something actually that we've, you know, personally I've used in the past, especially on the first time I did base camp. You know, because it was the unknown. You know, for me then, you know, I didn't know, because as an asthmatic, I didn't know I'd be okay. Didn't know how I get at altitude, how I get on. But something I did was in terms of targets, is actually picking physical targets on the trail, especially at altitude. When you hit a steep section, you know, you can feel a bit, you know, I'm like, especially at that time, because I was just on my own. I didn't have a guide, and you know, on our trips, you do have guides who look after you, who manage the pace. But when you've got, when you've got moments where it's actually, you know, okay, this is tough now, I pick maybe a tree or a rock in the distance, and I say, right, I'm going to keep going until I hit that goal. I also use step counting. So if I'm finding it really tough, I'll actually count to 20. So I'll count 20 steps and then I'll stop. Or for instance, you want to step it up, you want to go 30, 40, 50, 100, whatever it is that is it works out well. But the one thing it takes you away from the struggle, takes you away from the tough side, because your mind is focused on the counting rather than how you're feeling. And again, this is just interrupting how you're feeling. If you can interrupt those negative feelings by doing something, it'll spark you out of it. And next thing you'll know, you'll feel a little bit differently about it.
Yeah.
Might not always work, but I tell you what, in my experience, and I know, reading about this type of thing, it kind of does. If you can spark you into action, that's only a positive thing, right?
Yeah, 100%. I love that interrupting the negative thoughts, because really the next one is kind of similar to this one, where you mentioned like let it wander.
Yeah.
Because I would say this is almost like me and you, two sides of the same coin. You're the step counter, the interrupt, the goal oriented. I think I'm more the next one, which is what we call let it go and wander, meaning let your mind wander. Don't walk off the edge. But like,
don't do that. Don't do that.
Because and it's amazing, like how what you can achieve if you just quieten the mind.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I do now, might make me sound like a little bit of a nutter, right? But I'll have maybe topics that I want to sort of think about and muse over.
Yeah.
Weirdly, when I'm hiking, I think about biking, and when I'm biking, I think about hiking, right? Because you can't think about what I'm doing right there, right? So when I'm about to like start a real steep hill, I'll think about, I was going to buy those new pedals. No, don't think about that, Dave. Save it for the hill. And then honestly, I almost think like, no, I'm not going to think about that now. I'm going to save that for the hill. And then as soon as you get to the real steep hill where you've got to kind of dig in, I don't force myself to think about it. I just gently let the thoughts flow through my brain, and I'll just be hiking up. I could get the titanium ones, but
Brilliant.
And honestly, and I let my mind wander, and and then I have like breaks and things like that to kind of like stop. And one of the most important things, and we always say that as well, on a big steep hill, stop and turn around.
Yeah, because otherwise all you'll see are your feet.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And it makes a big difference if you just stop and you turn around and you look back at where you've come, and all of a sudden you see like, wow, like 10 minutes ago I was like miles away down there. All of a sudden, if I've just done that in 10 minutes, the top doesn't seem so bad.
Yeah.
Okay, I could get the magnesium ones, but they're expensive.
Sorry, I just reading what Jan said there. He said, I'm better now, but I've been ill, had some sedentary months, so I'm going to have to start again. Been dragging my heels a bit. You two are totally inspiring me today. I'll get Bet out there ASAP. Roll on weekend. I give myself a test drive. Thank you.
100%, Jan. 100%. Honestly, it doesn't matter how long you've been sat on the sofa watching TV. It could be a week, a month, a year, or 10 years. It really doesn't make a difference. I can tell just from that message that she hasn't lost the spark to kind of get out there and do things.
Exactly. We talk about interrupts. Hopefully this has interrupted that for you, Jan.
Yeah, 100%. And Jan, I completely sympathize with you. There are moments where I've been like physically ill and, even sort of mentally, I wouldn't say mentally ill is a bit strong, but not mentally focused on what I should be doing. And you kind of it's easier to sit down and just distract yourself with TV and food in my case.
Yeah.
But I promise you, Jan, all you got to do is get up and go outside and walk for 15 minutes and you'll feel better. And then I guarantee you that, but in a blink of an eye, you'll be going out and you'll be walking for 10 hours and achieving summits and doing awesome sorts of stuff. I know that because I did it myself.
Yeah. Got a couple of shout outs as well. I think Lucy Bagley's finally on here. We mentioned you earlier, Lucy. Congrats on the summit. I know you're back in Mochi. Have a well-earned pint, mate. You deserve it.
Awesome.
All groups successfully submitted. Yeah, they did. She's altituded, I think.
Submitted. I was going to say then, and you mean summited?
I know.
No, you've read it perfectly.
Yeah,
you read it perfectly.
And then we got Des Lally's on here as well. Hey, Des, how you doing? Nice to see him on the live finally. You got him off Canavan.
Oh yeah,
finally.
He's what has he been? Great distraction ideas, especially when cold water dip in. Yeah, it's getting
exactly.
Des is an amazing guy that's done some amazing things for charity. He did like
awesome.
24 hours rugby on Penavan on the summit.
It was more than that actually. I think he actually went longer than that.
Yeah.
Des, was it like 36 hours? Remind us. I know Des was on our podcast. Definitely give him a listen. I believe it should be live on the podcast now. Mountain Malarkey podcast. Have a look at Des's episode. It's really good, really interesting.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he also did that thing, didn't he? He climbed Penavan every day for a year.
That thing?
Yeah, that other bit, that little, because he climbed Penavan every day for a year.
Which was amazing, yeah. Very inspiring, man. Very inspiring. Love you, Des. Great. I hope life is treating you well, mate. But yeah, and it's quite interesting as well. Just reading people what they do. Like I think I'm just looking here. Let's have a look. Who was it? I believe it was George. He stops and pours a coffee, looks up, clouds above Monroe. I'll get a coffee with Dad. Off I go, head down small steps. Mate, it's just nice hearing what you guys do.
Isn't he usually sat inside a septic tank?
He is usually inside some sort of tank.
So he's only ever inside of a tank or on a Monroe.
It's not bad existence.
Such a juxtaposition of Georgie's life. He either can only see the surface like inches in front of his face, or he can see the moon. Amazing.
Brilliant. Some people as well, they go in Samantha Wright, off National Three Peaks this weekend, a warm-up for EBC in November. Mate, good luck. I hope it goes well.
Smash it, Sam. Send it.
Yeah, post some pictures in the Evertrek group on Facebook, mate. It'd be great to see how you're getting on.
Yeah.
Perfect training. We were actually talking when we were sort of planning out some of these lives. Believe it or not, we do sometimes. We don't just leave it to the time, do we, Dave?
No, really is it 29 minutes past 12 and we're going, what's today on? Boots, quick, go grab a bit.
No, we were talking about the difference between, and this is another one we're going to do, is the difference between training and adventures, and whether you can just do adventures as part of your training instead of just calling it training. It's anyway one for a couple of weeks when I'm back from Peru. But yeah, certainly a great way for training. Get out there, do some 3 peaks. Yeah, let us know how you get on, Sam. Be definitely good to hear from you. Yeah, so nice people all over the place here. It's nice to hear from Lucy and Des and Danny Reed as well. All I can think about is the food. Brilliant. But yeah, so we'll go back to what we talked about there, just so we can finish off. I know we've had a few questions come in. Any more questions, guys, do drop them in, because I think we've had about 3 or 4 so far. So yeah, we don't want to be just sat here. We want to answer some of your questions. It can be about what we're talking about today, about tough moments. It can be about Maindel Bhutans, if you like.
There you are. You've done it now. You've done it now. And that's it. That's all we're going to get now is boot questions.
Well, we're doing one about boots soon. But no, the let it go and wander bit, without going into Frozen, couldn't resist doing that. Let it go. Is
right.
I know.
I haven't seen it.
Is loose connection.
I don't.
You haven't seen it yet?
Yeah, but I don't have an 8-year-old.
That's fine. 9.
She's 9 now.
Almost
Sorry,
10.
Els. Sorry, Els.
I know. Is important to kind of let your mind wander a bit, because some people can get quite tense. I think when you're focused on a goal or a target, or you're going up on an adventure, your body can start to tense up, and you're focused on the challenge. But if you are struggling and you're thinking about altitude, you've got a headache, maybe you're not quite feeling yourself, maybe you haven't eaten for a day, you're not going to be feeling yourself. Excuse me. But actually, and then you go back to the beginning where we talk about the why and why you're there. But if you can start to let your mind wander, and like Dave said, he's thinking about bikes, or if he's trekking, he's thinking about
bikes.
He's biking, he thinks about treks.
Yeah.
It's good to kind of mix that up and think about all the different things. I mean, I know I think Stefan's put on there. Stefan, got your name right this week. When I think about my mortgage bills, cost of living, mate. Not everyone does that. I'm just going to put it out there. But yeah, it's good to process stuff. I remember when I went to Everest Base Camp, when my mind wandered, do you know what I thought about?
What?
I thought about setting a company up.
Did you?
Isn't it mad? Because my mind wandered, and I thought about, I want to help people do what I did, and that was because I kind of let things go a little bit. And it's good to have thinking time. I think all of us have busy lives. We're always doing something. We're always got to be somewhere. I know obviously some people, depending on where you're at in life, but Western society can be busy. Watching things on Netflix. We're doing all these busy stuff. And sometimes you don't have that time to think about stuff.
I'm on the holidays now.
Exactly. Yeah, you've got to have time to process things in life. Stefan said there. There's certain things he wanted to process. For me, it was processing about what I was going to do next after that Everest Base Camp trip. And you never know what thoughts can happen, and where your life can lead just by letting it wander.
I honestly think climbing Kilimanjaro was like a form of meditation for me.
Yeah.
When I left the camp, and we all put our hands in, and we had like a summit.
Yeah.
And then as we set off, there's actually, if you watch our video, there's a little bit right at the beginning where you see us all walking. And you see someone walking really slowly. That's me.
Yeah, it is. With that big bucket hat.
No, this is summit night. It's dark.
Yeah,
I only know it's me because I recognize the rab trousers I've got on.
Yeah.
But it's weird. It's like my mind was almost completely vacant. I was just letting thoughts were coming in and going out. It was like
meditation.
It was great. It was I don't know. I've only ever felt that on Kili, and I think it was something about setting off at night. You've only got the head torch, this little cone of light guiding you.
Yeah.
And it's almost like forced mindfulness, because there's nothing else to consider. There's nothing else to kind of distract you from the job of just one foot in front of the other. And I always say that, right? There's something about trekking that always does it for me. First time I ever realized it was when I got back from EBC, and me and Billy and you met up to go for a walk.
Yeah.
And it was the first walk I did after EBC, and I put my rucksack on, and all of a sudden it was like, I swear, honest to God, it was like my mind suddenly went.
Really?
And it was just that act of putting that rucksack on. It just set me straight back on that path, and I was like,
interrupted you.
I was like, that's great. that click there is like, yeah, it's
amazing,
great.
Isn't it? Sparked you into life. I love that, Dave. Dave, very true, from Jerome, the rock carrier himself.
The rock carrier. Yeah.
Hey, Jerome, I hope you're well, mate. And one of the last big ones that I kind of written down was, I mean, this is a bit of a cliche, really, about never giving up. Is important. I know the other ones, can work, and the interruption of maybe you're feeling negative, breaking things down, letting it go, picking targets. They're all important, but it doesn't matter how fast you're going, but never give up. If you're moving, you're moving. If you're moving forward, you're still moving. Doesn't matter how slow you go. And that never giving up attitude. Now, obviously, I know on our treks, there are medical reasons why people have to give up. There are certain times when we have to because for safety, but actually, there's certain times when. Sorry, Jerome, don't carry anymore. When you're, sorry, just try get my thread. Yeah, when you're actually in that moment and you think you are, like Nim said, was it when you think you're fucked? When you're only 45% fucked. Yeah. We'll beat those out. Yeah. For anyone on the podcast. No. And it's true.
You're the only one that's ever sworn on you. Do you know that?
Well, we could do
no, because there was it was one of the funniest moments on Kilimanjaro when me and you were talking and we were recording a podcast on the top, and you said it's freezing.
That's right. Yeah, I went. Yeah. Well, you got to emotions take over.
Yeah.
But no, yeah. When it's true, when you do think you've had enough, you have got more in the tank.
Yeah, 100%.
I know mentally we think, oh my God, I just need to sit down. I'm exhausted. And it's okay to sit down, by the way. Not for anyone that likes to sit down. It's good to have a rest, but recuperate, get some energy in you, and off you go. But it is that just remembering that. Again, go back to your why. Remember why you're there, why you want to do it. That will help with the never giving up attitude. And I think some of these things, there's a lot of things there that you can take into this. We can call it the mental mix, whatever, just off the bat. And it could all help you 1%. But those 1% start to add up, and next thing you know, you're on the summit of Kili. Next thing you know, you're Everest Base Camp. Whatever you set as the goal, you're going to reach it. And yeah, I think those things help.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think there's no getting around it that there are certain times when you've got to dig deep, stay hard, and just crack on. And because trekking is difficult, trekking at altitude is even harder, and what we're trying to do is it's like no one tool can repair a car. You need a toolbox. And when the moment's right, you pick out that one tool and it helps you get through the day. But very occasionally, even on treks, you're going to need a hammer. And
that's analogy of the week.
That
is brilliant.
Yeah, and and occasionally you just pull out that hammer and you just think, right, that's it. This one's for all the marbles. I've licked the stamp. All I gotta do is send it, and you just get up there.
Yeah,
and you do see it. You see people get at the top, and it's funny. Like you'll get at the top of a section and be like, "Yeah, it's okay," and you'll see someone else like, "Get in," and you think like that was their summit. It's great to see. Yeah. And then other moments they'll see you, and then on those very special ones, you'll all have it at the same time together, like on the summit of Kili.
Percussion mates, just love it. Heather's got a good point as well. So I noticed something else. Yeah, well done for remembering, Heather. Andy mentions once on here about the 11 more steps. That always comes to mind when I'm struggling. Yeah, it's that was something I went to. Remember that? I forgot his name now. It's on the tip of my tongue. He did in Antarctica. He was at a charity event for Flamai, homeless charity, and there was a guy there, and he did. Remember, he talked about Scott the Antarctic, and he was basically if he went 11 more steps every day, he would have survived.
Give me 1 second. I can find out if you're asking me.
She would know.
He would know.
But he was an awesome guy. He actually runs an expedition company called Shackleton, but about training. It's actually really interesting. If you're going to do any Arctic or Antarctic exploration, or trips, yeah, definitely check that out. Yeah, but 100%. That those 11 more steps.
If you did 11 more steps every day, cumulatively, you'd have made it.
Yeah, I mean that's
the
yeah,
theory.
he called the whole presentation 11 more steps.
Is that the presentation I watched with you at that Clanway event?
It was.
Why has it not stayed in my mind?
I don't know.
No, I left early.
You left early.
That's why I did it. I left early.
Yeah,
also, yeah, Stuart Taylor got my Goggins reference. David Goggins, you see, a lot of people love him. A lot of people hate him. To me, it's not about an entire philosophy. That type of mindset is one tool. It's usually my hammer that I keep there and I get out. Sometimes I need to pull out Zen and the art of motorcycle maintenance. Yeah, you'd love that book, and
yeah,
I read it as a kid and didn't really understand it.
Say that, you know me. Not you like wheels. I like feet. You know, it's all good.
No, but it's not really about motorcycle maintenance.
Oh, really?
It's about mindset.
Oh, yeah, I'll have to check that out.
It's called Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. Okay. It's one of the most famous books on that sort of thing.
Sorry, Andy McNaughton Jones, that is very funny. About the presentation, you should have stayed 11 more minutes.
He's a joker.
He's
a joker.
Genius.
No, you are right, yeah. Why did I have to leave that day? I was going somewhere.
I don't know. I think you were off on a trip.
I won the raffle.
You won the raffle.
But I won the comedy club prize.
Right, what we got? About 20 more minutes. Just before we go into the next bit, because is one important one we haven't talked about yet. But yeah, it's coming close actually. The British Travel Awards. You may have discussed this before, but we were entered, nominated, and we're finalist in the British Travel Awards. And magically, Vicky is going to post the link here. But it would be awesome if our Evertrekkers, it's to do with the best. It says holiday trekking company. You know, we don't really do holidays, it's adventures, right? But it you know, in terms of winning that would be amazing to us. You know, we're amongst some really you know, companies that have been here like 30, 40 years, and we really think we've got a chance. But it's voted by you guys, so yeah, it'd be amazing if you could vote for us.
Yeah,
it's there's the link there. Vicky's put it up. It's some cool stuff apparently by voting, and this isn't a bribe. But yeah, because we've noticed some others doing it. But yeah, if you do vote, I think you get into like some free prize draw, I think, for voting.
Yeah.
Which is quite cool. I get to win some trips and stuff. So yeah, definitely. Obviously, nothing to do with us, but British Travel Awards are giving away some cool stuff. So yeah, if you do vote, yeah, it's quite a cool reason. But we know you don't need a reason because you love us anyway. But no, if you do, you know, it's great that we're on, you know, that we're on that finalist list. And we feel, you know, over the last, you know, sort of 4 or 5 years, we've really found what we do and our calling. You know, we feel, you know, we feel like we do a good job at that. And it'd be really good if we can win that. But anyway, thought I'd throw that in just before we go on to the next one.
Yeah.
Because I think it was, if I go up to the question, I think it was Becky actually, Becky Miles, tips for pre-trek mind tricks. Wow, that's a mouthful. But actually, I got something written down here, which was about the pre and the post mindset. So we'll talk about the pre here. And yeah, you're right. You know, after the build-up, you know, again, we go to goals and targets, what we talked about earlier. Things can start to manifest in a way that it actually seems, it does weigh you down, does weigh on your mind. I think you've put there, you know, the flight to Lukla, exactly. You've probably been watching videos of that. You've been reading about that. There's quite a lot of stuff about certain things. And sometimes that can influence you, can't it? In a negative way, as well as a positive, because you're excited, but there's an element of fear. And, you know, I understand that. I've been there. You know, I think we've all had those anxieties of the unknown. The unknown definitely can manifest in many different ways. But again, go back to why you're going. You know, you've earned this. You've put the training in. You know, you've booked it however long ago. Remember that we weren't allowed out of our house we weren't allowed to go to these places for 18 months, 2 years. I think sometimes we need to be almost have that bit of gratitude that we're allowed to travel, that we're allowed to go, and we can, you know, then it kind of, you're free, you're off to enjoy yourself. And having those things in your mind, it can kind of take that, maybe a little bit of that anxiety away.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, would you agree? Is anything else that you
Yeah,
use,
no,
you know?
I also think that, you know, the having fears and stuff like that
it's normal,
it's normal, and it's also the kind of the point.
Yeah.
You know, you're not signing up for something that you know 100% you can already achieve.
Yeah.
You know, like if you sign up for a marathon, the whole point is that you might not make it.
Yeah.
You might fall short of your goal.
Yeah.
That's what makes it an adventure. That's where you put in it's a risk you know, and to me, that's part of the point. It's part of the fun. It's part of the adventure. Whenever people set off to try and climb Everest, it wasn't because they knew they could get it to the top. There were other mountains that were unclimbed that they knew they could summit.
Yeah.
But Everest was the one that they might not get to.
Yeah.
You know, so I think,
awesome.
Having those little fears about the plane and things like that, you can 100% overcome them. And, you know, just open that toolbox, look in there, what's the best tool for the job? Sometimes it's like, do you know what? I'm just going to get on that plane. I don't care. I'm just getting on the plane. Other times it's headphones in, put on a podcast that really distracts you, something completely unrelated to what you're doing. Close your eyes and only think about that. Other times, if you're like me, it's just great. I love it. I think it's really good fun. And but then there are other things that, you know, that concern me more than that. Everyone's got their own little mountains to climb along the way.
Yeah, exactly. It might be things that you go through in life, you know, and this trip might be an interruption for that. You know, might be something that you're there and it's kind of okay. Maybe this, you know, because trips do affect people in amazing ways.
Mm-hmm.
They really do. I think once you do one of the trips or maybe a couple of trips and you realize what you're capable of, I mean, you know, your world's your oyster. It really is. Like you know, you can do whatever you want to do. I firmly believe that. You know, certainly the journey, you know, I know a lot of people have been on. I mean, loads of Evertrekkers have messaged and talked about their stories and then where they've gone on to. It's actually amazing.
Yeah.
And very inspiring. And I think, you know, going and thinking about that before you go there. Actually, I'm going to go out there. It's outside my comfort zone, but I'm going to throw myself into it and I'm going to do great. And then when you come back and you sit down, you know, cup of coffee in your hand, you know, this might be after the dust settles a little bit, and sometimes it takes a couple of weeks, and then you realize, shit, well, I've actually achieved something.
Yeah.
Sorry, I swore again there. I've actually done something. I know, mate. I've got proper loose.
And weirdly, outside of the tuning, I think I'm more sweary than you.
You are. I think it's because we're talking about mental stuff, and I'm like,
you get guess you.
I'm passionate about it.
Guess him going. Guess him going.
But it is really, you know, you can achieve anything in life. You really can.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
You know, and obviously, if you want challenges and things, you're in the right place, which is great. But right, we've got.
Should we do the questions?
Yeah, we'll do some questions
because you asked for them.
I know.
We've
sorry,
got
guys.
Quite
sorry.
a few, and we've got 10 minutes.
We'll make them. You know, even if we go over, that's fine. Let's get these questions answered.
Okay.
Go for it. What we got?
Okay, so the first one.
Yeah.
Bruce Stevens has said,
Hey,
seems geared up for younger people. What age ranges do you cater for? Okay, Bruce. Yeah. Well, I think you'd be quite surprised. The oldest person that we've ever had come on one of our trips, I was actually lucky enough to trek with the guy. His name's David, and he was 72 when he made Everest Base Camp.
Awesome.
We've also had, is Leah probably the youngest? 14?
Yeah,
Leah's Everest.
Yeah.
So there's a huge age range, and I dare say we take people a little older, and I dare say we take people a little younger. Age is just but a number. It's not something that we really factor into our decision about who we take and who we don't. The onus is on you. If you want to take on one of these challenges, then we'll facilitate it in any way.
Yeah.
Honestly, but I whenever we talk about these trips, and me and Andy will sit down and we think, what about this trip? What about that trip? One thing we've never ever discussed is, do you know what, that trip might not be suitable for people of this age or that age. To us, it doesn't mean anything. You try telling Ranulph Fiennes he's too old to do something.
Exactly.
You know,
I bet he's like,
and you try
screw you guys, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, and you try telling that Leah she's too young.
Yeah.
You know, Leah's Everest. Amazing.
Massively inspirational.
I honestly, the youngest person I think to summit Everest was about 16 years old. I think the oldest guy was in his 80s.
Yeah.
For us, it doesn't matter. You can get out there and you can have at it, and yeah.
It is just a number. It really is. It depends on the individuals, like Dave said. You know, but if you've got that desire and that motivation, maybe we've interrupted you today. You know, talk about interruption a lot. But yeah, get out there.
That's right. Yeah,
I got it.
You little badger.
No, that's good. Haley's got a good one actually. Tough for me, except going uphill if it's really hot. So suffering with the heat. Yeah, mate. I know Dave suffers in the heat a lot. He runs hot.
Hate it.
I can do the same work in different weather and feel so differently.
Mm-hmm.
Any tips to deal with this mentally on top of hydration, something like that? Yeah, Dave. It's a good one for you because you've done all these challenges essentially, and you struggle with the heat.
Yeah, I despise the heat.
You still do it. Though.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's honestly, if we set out on a training weekend like we recently did, and the average temperature was 34, and it peaked at 36. To me, that's like, oh god. But
give me a cold shower.
I've realised that there's things about preparation. So beforehand, I think, okay, I know I'm going to struggle.
Yeah.
So
accept that.
I'm going to accept that I'm going to struggle today, that it's going to be a hot one. But that, again, that's the whole point of why I'm going out there to do it. And it's good to let other people see you struggle. People always assume that we'll be the strongest on the hill, but it's not true.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes like I'll be so slow. But here's some practical advice. So one, get one of these cool towels. You can download them. You can find them on the internet and buy them. You can't download a towel yet. Maybe Elon will work on that. And basically you can just pour some water on it and it'll stay, and then wring it out and it stays cool for 2 hours. They're really good around the back of the neck, on the head. It really helps. And water is key. It doesn't matter how hot you feel. It doesn't matter how much you're sweating, as long as you're replacing that fluid. So carry enough water, something I constantly mess up. But you know, your pack's going to be a little bit heavier than it normally is because you need to fill that water. And the other one is sunscreen. Keep the sun off you. I wear long sleeves, not like hot long sleeves, but like a base layer with long sleeves with a zip up. I'll keep my neck covered. I'll have like a bucket hat. Everyone takes the mick out of me, but I think I look like, you know, some cool sort of 90s raver.
It does remind me of what's his name? Sorry, I've interrupted you now. What's his name? Kevin and Perry Go Large. That's what it reminds me of.
Get that a lot. For me, it's more like,
but it works functional.
I'm thinking more like, you know, the Happy Monday, Stone Roses, that sort of thing. But other people go for Kevin and Perry. It's fine. But yeah, honestly, the heat is something that you're just going to have to deal with by keeping it off your exposed skin, keeping yourself cool, and replacing those fluids. Another thing that I do is I've got a little Yeti flask, the brand Yeti, and I'll fill it with ice.
Very on brand.
Yeah, and then I'll fill that with ice, and it's so good. It keeps the ice cubes in a solid state right up until the end of the walk. And then I usually give myself a point. You know, when I get there, I'm going to start eating my ice. And it's
nice.
It's amazing. And my one, when we recently did the training weekend, we did the Horseshoe Ridge. There's a long Roman road stretch, and it goes on for ages. It's just rock. It's boiling hot.
Yeah.
And I thought, when I get to the start of that Roman road, I'm going to start eating ice cubes. And that was my little distraction from that.
No, it's really good. There's so many things there. I think the only thing I'd add, definitely, just like you said, accepting that you're going to be hot. I think Davey already said it. But just go in there knowing you're going to be hot and thinking, what can you do to make your life easier? Have a plan. Definitely a plan in terms of, okay, I'm going to have to up my water intake today because it's so hot. I think one of the only trips really you'll feel that way is probably on Tubcal in the summer months. I know we got some other trackers who've been there. It can get up to like 30, 40 degrees, you know, and you'll have to, your altitude anyways, you've got to step up your water intake. So just accept that. Georgie's asked, guys, meant to ask last week, are we allowed to take beef jerky and stuff to EBC? Yeah, good question, Georgie. I know where you come from there. Nepal being primarily a Hindu country, so they don't eat beef, but you are allowed to bring them in there. Yeah, definitely. And a lot of people do actually, just to keep the. You've had it before, haven't you? Just keep your protein up.
Yeah, I bought 1 pack. Just because I fancied a bit of meat.
Yeah, a bit of a treat.
But honestly, it's not the type of thing you're gonna. So with that, you just have to be sort of a little bit culturally aware. The people, the guides, and things like that probably won't eat it, so you don't need to offer it round or anything like that. But for me, it's just a little trail snack. So pull the packet off, put it in my pocket, reach in, grab a bit of beef jerky as I'm going up. And some people as well, they have to eat meat. You know, there's certain dietary requirements where they, they need the protein or whatever. Nice. I know there's a lot of vegetarians going, you can get enough protein on this. But I spoke to a guy the other day that said he needed to eat meat. So
nice. Yeah. Peter's asking, I'm looking to do Kili in 2025. Where can I find all the info for what you guys provide? Yeah, Pete, I reckon definitely get onto the trip page. Vicky, if you can drop the Kilimanjaro trip page on there, there is a guide on the page you can download, Pete. That gives you all the information for the trip. There we are, literally, as if by magic, the link is on there. So definitely go there, download the guide, give you a full trip walkthrough. Got some videos so you can see what you're getting yourself into. Obviously, you're in the right place because if you want to learn more about altitude and what we do, and you've got other trackers here who have been to Kili, who are going on Kili. You're in the right place to go on any high altitude adventure. So definitely, that's what I suggest, Pete. Just first off, just so you can see what kind of trip we run. We like to take it nice and easy, nice and slow. That's why we go the long way on Kili. Better chance of summit success. Definitely, Pete. Have a little look on there, mate.
Awesome. Rachel Horton, does anyone listen to music or podcasts to help them through the pain barrier? Any recommendations?
Yeah.
I 100% do. There's loads of, any recommendations for podcasts? When I'm traveling, I tend to listen to Kermode and Mayo's movie podcast quite a bit.
Really?
Yeah, just movie reviews and interviews and stuff like that.
That's quite cool.
Yeah, it's just like a little thing that I'll listen to. I tend to listen to like more lighthearted stuff when I'm trekking, like comedy shows and things like that. I listened to one when I was trekking in Nepal once. It's called My Dad Wrote a Porno.
Wow.
Honestly,
that's a different.
Honestly, it's really, really
interesting.
Funny. It's really weird, but really funny.
Sounds fun.
It's about this guy that just realizes that his dad has written like an erotic novel, and they read sections from it and then they discuss it. It's really weird.
There we go. You can let it go.
But honestly,
on the trip, listening to that.
Honestly, those things I really do think of, like things that like make you laugh, take your mind off.
The Goon Show, old but brilliant. That's from Andrew. Yeah, there was a few recommendations of some crime podcasts earlier on the comments. I'm trying to find Dave, because I know you're a lover of that.
Yeah, but weirdly I love a serial killer podcast.
Yeah.
You know, but for some reason when I'm in the mountains, I don't like to listen to it.
It's different energy, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, you've obviously got the Mountain Malarkey podcast. Nice. Wow, Dave. It's a good tune.
We need to do more.
We do. I know we do a lot of the Tuesday tune-ins, but
Infinite Monkey Cage is brilliant, by the way.
Here we go. Something Small Town Dick's True Crime podcast.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm swearing again.
I've listened to all of them.
I've got a few different swear words in this one, but
in the infinite monkey cage without your trousers.
Is that how it goes?
It's Brian Cox and just fill the gap hand.
Okay, I'm going to interrupt.
Robin Ince. And they have comedians and scientists on, and they just banter.
Nice. Great. Right, a couple of others just before we finish. Then I think it was Ginny. In our duffel to EBC, I assume the sleeping bag and jacket that we borrow in count for the total weight. How much they weigh? Yes. So when you got your sleeping bag and your jacket, they do go in your duffel bag. I mean, you can kind of sneakily get away with it because you can wear your duffel.
You could wear your
duffel. Wear your down jacket.
People do. As a really long hat.
That would be very uncomfortable. Now you can wear your jacket so it doesn't get weighed. Just putting that out there. People do it. And then you can put that in the sleeping bag once you're off. You can put it back in the bag. Just an idea. Some people then they wear their heavy boots. There's little things you can carry because you don't get weighed, so you can put stuff in your pockets.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely with that, the total weight of the sleeping bag, I believe, is just under 1.5. But there are different sizes. You get to have a look at them at the hotel.
Yeah.
Aloft when you arrive in Nepal. So definitely have a look. And so some of them are a bit smaller. Some of them might be a bit bigger. Yeah. So I know it's this weight thing around, trying to get accurate, close as you can get to 15 kgs with a duffel bag and your day pack is obviously challenging. But yeah, these are just the kind of requirements that the airlines have put on, unfortunately. But then we go back to it. You've got to take what you got to take in terms of if you need certain things. Like when I take some of my camera gear, I go probably over 20 kgs. But I'm comfortable then that if it gets taken off and it's on the next plane, I'll just have to wait for it, because then because sometimes that does happen. Sometimes it doesn't, and they say, okay, here's extra 5 kgs. Can you give us, a couple of 100 rupees, something like that? It's not massively expensive. But in terms of our guidance, it's to aim for 15 kgs.
Yeah.
Jerome's asked as well. Can you top up your water supply whilst on the trail whilst walking? Yeah, you can. It just depends on what bottle you got, right?
In EBC.
EBC, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's loads of places along the way because you're generally trekking a well-trodden trail. There are obviously spots where you can't.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you've got like a filter bottle, you could.
Yeah. You got yourself an Evertrek filter bottle.
Yeah. But other than that, generally speaking, you'll start in the morning. You'll stop somewhere for lunch. And those two, that's plenty of opportunity. Like I've never ran out of water on one of our treks, but that's for sure.
No. It's a good one though, and obviously water's so important. Jerome, I know you're on it, mate. But you're never going to go thirsty up there. There's plenty of stops.
Jan Wilshaw said, "Is there a cool version of a bucket hat?" Now I want to know. All bucket hats are cool, Jan. All bucket hats are cool. However, if you mean temperature cool, I recommend the Outdoor Research OR. I think it's called the Helios.
Yeah.
If you put OR Helios bucket hat in,
yeah,
I guarantee you'll eventually find the one that's got like it's designed to keep your head cool. However, if you mean you want one that looks cool, any bucket hat will serve that purpose.
Yeah.
Any bucket hat.
But if you want to look really cool, and if you like to look like Indiana Jones, you could try and get one of those big Indiana Jones
My
hats.
dad
What are
wears
they called?
one.
Not trilbies.
No, it's
that's a bit old school.
It's not a trilby. My dad wears them. There's a Tilly.
A Tilly.
A Tilly
yeah,
hat.
They're brilliant.
So you can get one of them, yeah. But obviously not quite as cool as the bucket hat.
Yeah.
But
got a few questions coming in here now. We'll answer. We'll finish off. We'll answer them. How much does the Evertrek filter bottle weigh? Quite light, actually. Fedora hat. Yeah, I love a fedora. Yeah, Evertrek filter bottle weigh. They're quite. I'd say less than half a kilo. They are very obviously a lot when you've got a litre of water in there. Sorry, just under a litre of water. It does almost
just
a
under
kilo.
a kilo.
Just under a kilo. A kilo. Charlotte, what do you think about the reservoir things in small rucksacks? Yes, water bladders.
Really good.
Highly recommend it. Just because you don't have to get your bottle out every time to drink, and statistically you'll drink more water when you've got one of these that's just there, and you can just literally straight to your mouth.
100%.
And what we kind of use the term looky sippy sippy. So if you're looking around enjoying the ruse. The
ruse. It's all the ruse.
We're not in Australia. It's because
oh no, I
Leah there with .au, she got me.
I meant ruse as in like it's a trick.
I thought my ruse
it's
as
a
in
trick.
kangaroos.
It's a either or, I suppose. Yeah.
You haven't spent enough time in Australia.
No, well, yeah, 3 weeks in Australia.
No, but yeah, when it comes to the views, sip your drink. Definitely highly recommend it. And then obviously you can get your filter bottle or your water bottle out and drink that as well. But yeah, I highly recommend it.
I have something I want to talk about.
Okay.
We have a training weekend that we still have some spaces left for.
Oh, we do? Oh my God, I can't believe we forgot to talk about it.
We were about to get shouted at.
We were.
So we do have a training weekend on the 21st of October, 2022. So next month.
Yeah.
And we have a couple of spaces left. There's a few. I'm not sure exactly how many, but one of the girls, Vicky, can you put a link to the training weekend in there? My God. Seriously, she's good.
I mean,
she's good.
Yeah,
I didn't even finish.
She knows.
I think she had it in there, and she was thinking if he doesn't say it. But yeah. So guys, if you want to join myself, Andy, mountain guide Steve, on a training weekend, essentially imagine the Tuesday tune-in, but it's 48 hours long. But it's 48 hours long. Yeah. It doesn't stop. Yeah, we'll discuss all of the Tuesday tune-in topics over 2 days.
Exactly. Brilliant. Simon's asking on subject of drinks, where's the best coffee shop in Tamil? Wow. Simon, honestly, mate, there are a lot of good coffee shops.
In Tamil?
Yeah, there's loads, aren't there? I'm just trying to think of exact one. There's one called Or2K, which I've gone a couple of times. They do loads of stuff, not just coffee, but I've had a good coffee there. Or there's a really good one outside of town. If you go to Budanath Stupa, so if you get a bit of free time, we go there on the day tour anyway.
Himalayan Java.
Actually, one of the best coffees I've had in Nepal.
It's one of the few places you can actually buy bacon.
It is actually.
I spoke to a news. It's not really a cultural thing.
Yeah.
Because they eat pork, but they just don't eat a lot of bacon. But if you want to go there and you
fancy a treat,
you like that sort of stuff,
and you like your coffee.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely. So Simon, I hope that helps, mate. I hope it helps. There was one question as well. I think it was Diane. Diane, really sorry because I know I was going through.
Diane Fizakali.
Yeah, Di Fizbak. Fizbak. What does it feel like on summit night? Did you head off with the head torches? Do you feel safe underfoot? Yeah, definitely. I mean, what I would say, any time that you have spent with head torch on in the dark, and walking about does help because you're kind of used to it.
Mm-hmm.
You will take a little bit again used to if you haven't and you're on, you're walking up. But what you will see is that actually after a few hours, as it creeps towards 3 a.m., you probably won't need them because it's actually quite bright, and you will see a line of people, not quite queues, but you will see people ahead with the lights on as well. So you'd be surprised how easy it is. But when you will have your head down like this with your poles, walking up, and you get yourself into that rhythm, and then before you know it, you're on the summit ridge.
Yeah.
It really is like that. Absolutely beautiful. But yeah, you'll be fine, mate. I know it's, again, talking about things and thinking about it before you go out there. Even if you can maybe practice before you go for a couple of nights, maybe go for some night walks, I think you'll be fine. But right, Dave, yeah, what a great tune in. That's been brilliant.
We're losing them, man. We're losing them.
I know. Sorry, you still got a few.
Yeah.
No, honestly, I hope you've enjoyed today. I know it's a little bit different. We talk about the mental side of things, but as Dave said, trip is 90% mental and the other 10%
mental.
Exactly. So it is, it really is. If you can get that great stuff going for you on a trip, and it can really make the difference between, reaching your goal or not.
Yeah.
And we hope that helps. I hope we've answered all your questions today as well. Like I said, links in there for the British Travel Awards. Please, if you can, vote for us. If not, we'll see you. We're actually, me and Dave, both off next week. So we're not here next week, but we are back the week after.
Yeah.
Obviously with yourself, and I think you're talking with the guys, and then I'll be back from Peru, and then we're going to be talking, giving our kind of really all about Machu Picchu, just kind of from a Yeti's perspective.
Looking forward to that one.
About that. Yeah, exactly. So we can talk.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I'll just stay here in Newport if that's all right. You crack on, mate.
I will.
Yeah,
I will. But no. Stay safe. Have an awesome time trekking, training. If you go on a trip, good luck. If you're on a trip right now, like Lucy, enjoy the beers, celebrate. Have a Kilimanjaro beer or an Everest beer, wherever you are. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
See you guys.
Take care.